Alright, jobs. Let's see. Default jobs. Okay, so Freelancer is going to be at the very bottom and not in the Pixel Remaster. Because this is one of those games that you don't get to see. It's basically the same as the other. Alright, the same as the other. Yeah, the same as the other. Alright, the same as the other ones. Oh, frick. Okay, the music is very loud. Alright. Alright, so the Freelancer, it's probably not in this one. Yeah, because I played the Pixel Remaster and I didn't do a live stream of the 3D version. Alright, so let's get this started. Onion Knights, I'm gonna place it on a D tier. You won't be able to use that class as much, even if you do some farming. It's probably not a good class at all. So, they belong on a D tier. Because once you get to the Wind Crystal, you actually get a bunch job that outclasses it. Except for the one. Which there will be the next job that I will talk about. So, anywho. Alright, so we're gonna start it off as the other warrior. Alright, gonna swap between the other classes. Okay, we're just gonna go with the warrior, gonna place them on C tier. Yeah, it's probably just another one. Probably not a bad class to start with. You can probably get the swords until you get to a certain boss where you have to swap between other ones. Especially when you go and fight the boss that is the Fire Dragon. Yeah, they do have the shield, but it becomes secondary for that. They're pretty much decent boss slayers, but But all in all, I wouldn't recommend going for this class. So if you're going for the other classes, yeah, I don't think that would be good class. Alright, so as for the other classes, we're gonna go with a monk. Monk is a really good class to deal with. Although it really doesn't peter out as much at all until you get to the Wind Crystal. Until you get to Water Crystal. Although it probably won't. Well, it's probably the best class to go for HP grinding. If you go for HP grinding like I did, then this is the class that I would recommend. It's a really good class throughout the other. Alright, throughout the other classes. Alright. Throughout the Wind Crystal and Fire Crystal session. Well, there are other classes that are better than Monk. That gives better stats than Monk. So, all in all, it's probably a good class if you want to deal damage without the weapons. They are squishy, but the jobs it's the job level that matter. Alright. Yeah. Alright, so we're gonna talk about the red mage. I'm just gonna place him at the D tier, because... yeah, it can use both black magic and white magic. It's... yeah, the spell charges in this game, it really hurt this class a lot more. And it can use swords that warriors cannot, and neither can the knights. Which does hurt the sword selection significantly. Alright. And once you reach level 5, this god can use up to Kyuraga, Blizzaga, and Fundaga, but it can't use Fyraga. Which makes the class peter out a lot more than mages. And speaking of mages, I'm gonna go with a black mage. Gonna place him at the B tier. Yeah, it is a really decent class. It's probably a good boss slayer. Especially if you want to exploit weakness, and it can pretty much target any of the other classes. But what makes them peter out is because of the spell charges. And there is no way to mitigate those problems. So, honestly, that makes it even harder to recommend that. Hard to recommend a black mage. And I honestly would argue the same with the white mage. They're also the healers. They have one offensive move. That is Earth Elemental. That is a counterpart to Black Mage. It is somewhat better than Black Mage, but it really loses out. It would have been a much more viable class to go with, and a much more viable class to go by if they made it so much better. Yeah, I would probably place both of them and say that they are essential if the MP system were in favor of them, or that we have any of the others that make or tent/cottages that make spell charges a non-issue. Yeah. You had the potential, but you got really boned. I'm sorry, Black Mage and White Mages. Alright. Alright, so now that we're done with the wind classes, we're gonna go with the fire elemental ones. Alright, so what's next? Alright, Rangers. I'll probably say that it's a really good class to go by. Although it's probably a B tier. Probably not much of a good sweeper, but it can be a good boss slayer. Although, if you really want to exploit weakness, you have to swap weapons with each other. Hey! As I mentioned before, they have the barrage, which makes them sweep. But if you're fighting enemies with higher HP, you're better off using single target attacks. Alright, so we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about knights. Alright, the knight I'm gonna place them on the B tier. My god, the sword selection really... Yeah, much like the warrior, the weapon select... Yeah, the weapon selection is much worse. Hey, especially if you're stuck with the elemental weapons. So if you were to go fight Hein, the boss like Hein, you're probably gonna have a Hades of a time trying to fight this boss. Especially if you have a scholar with you. It really does have the defense class, but probably some sort of defensive class, but it gets overshadowed. Especially the water crystal jobs, as I will explain. Alright, we're just gonna go with the Thief class. While I haven't used Thief much, it's probably I'm just gonna place him on the A rank, because as opposed to Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 5, they can be really good because they have high agility. But if you're min-maxing HP, then I would probably use a Thief as just for if you planning on using a Scholar by leveling up. And you can actually beat the... You actually can run from battles without any of the issues whatsoever, especially if you have to be minied. Yeah, it's a really solid class. I would recommend going with a Thief for that. And I would probably level this class, but if you don't want to, then they have the scram ability that's really good. I didn't utilize the steal command as much, mainly because I haven't leveled them enough. So it is a good class. That, for the Scholar... Yeah. Alright. Alright. Yeah, some people will say anything. Alright, RPG site. Alright, the job picks. Alright. Okay, Final Fantasy Kingdom, let's see. Okay, so Scholar, it's probably not really a bad class. Although the one thing that's really holding them back is the fact that you use items. Yeah, they got good overhaul as opposed to the NES counterparts as well as the 3D counterpart. They make healing so much better as well as the use of the items. If you go off against Hein, you can pretty much obliterate Hein with your Scholars. You probably won't need a Black Mage, but if you plan on using a Black Mage, they're probably ideal for Black Mages. Although, other than that, I honestly wouldn't. I still think that this job is better than the Red Mage and the Onion Knight. Alright. Alright, so we're gonna move on to the Water Crystal. And for the Geomancers, I'm just gonna place it on the A rank. I know you're probably gonna raise your eyebrows at me, like, wait, Geomancers in the A rank? But Geomancers aren't really that great. Well, honestly, the reason why the Geomancers have over any other mages with the spell charges is the fact that it has Gaia ability. It's really an RNG heavy attack, which makes it very essential if you plan on using. It doesn't really peter out until you reach the Earth Crystal. So if you go with the one, it can be really RNG heavy, sure, but with the right setup, you probably won't have to go all the way back to ends to recharge. As long as you have potions. And it's probably a huge elixir saver. Okay, as for the Dragoon, it can be very good class. As opposed to the others. Alright, let's see. Oh wait, that's Dark Knight. Okay, Dragoon. Yeah, it's basically equivalent to that. Yeah, much like the Knight, the weapon has limited weapon selection. And it can be a real problem if you didn't money grind right after you go to the Water Crystal and get all the jobs. It's probably a good class against Garuda with the right setup. If you farm some guilds, it is a very good class. It can be really good against Garuda. Although, probably not really as useful as the other classes. It's overshadowed by the rest of the classes. Like, yeah, even the Knight as less useful as the Knights are, they can get a bit farther than that. Alright. Alright, let's see. Okay, so we're gonna go with the Viking. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to place them above the Knight. Above the Knight, it can be really good. If you put them in the back row, it's probably just... You can probably take damage. Although they're not really... They can be... They're not the best boss slayers due to the accuracy. But they're the hulkiest of the Hulk of the class. In the entire game. Although it does peter out, especially... It can be really helpful against the enemies that split. All you gotta do is use draw attacks and as long as they don't use magic, that should be no problem at all. Although, none of the other classes compared to the Black Belt. Oh my god! It is a godly class. I'm just gonna place the Geomancer. I'm gonna place the Black Belt S rank. Because this one, oh my god, you don't need to use weapons at all. You can just punch the crap out of enemies. And you don't even need to use a claws because they lower attack. Like, I don't need no stinking claws. I can just punch the crap out of everyone. And they're also good sweepers because they're also good sweepers. With the kick ability, you actually can destroy these enemies. They're dead in no time. And while Vikings sometimes get better HP overall, it's probably the best class to do some HP grinding. So if you really get the class, definitely go with that. Go with this class. It'll save you a bunch of headache. And there's another good class right there, the Dark Knight. I'm gonna place the Dark Knight the A rank. Although this class won't be useful in and now. Because they can only use dark swords. So, but if you level them enough, they can be much more useful. Heck, they gain the ability that can sweep. They're also the sweepers as opposed to the other classes. They can even be better than Geomancers and Thief. It's really a solid class to have. So if you really are doing a playing through Final Fantasy III, pick this class. You won't regret it at all. And now we're probably gonna go to the worst of the worst. It's the Evoker class. Yeah, it's basically just a pre-evolution of Summoner. Introduced in Final Fantasy III, they have the ability up to level 8 spells right off the bat, as opposed to white mages and black mages. But the problem is, most of the summons are single target, and half of the time they're buffed / debuffs, or the regular attacks. So I honestly wouldn't recommend going with this class. It's really not a good class at all. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the Bard. It's probably a decent class. Yeah, pretty decent. Although it only has about four songs, which can be useful a bit. Although you're probably gonna have to be a spam of healing songs as well as buff songs. And if you do, this class can be a bit more essential. Just a little more. As, although the heals are a bit percentage based, it's probably not a bad class to have. Alright, so yeah, I would recommend getting this class. Alright, so we're gonna move on to the Earth Crystal. And the class that are up next, There are other sweep. Alright, introducing Final Fantasy III, we have the Summoner class. And they can be the... I'm just gonna place them in the A rank. Above the Monk. You don't... They're like the best sweepers in the entire game. Yeah. As bad as the spell charges are, if you level them high enough, you actually... They are much more useful as opposed to with the other classes. So... Though the spell charges don't restrict them at all. So, it really do have access to level 8 spells. And they are really freaking good. So, if you really want to get this class, I would recommend the Summoner. Yeah, there's also a solid class to have. The Devout. They really do have better attacks. They are very good healers. They're just the evolved form of White Mages, except they are much better. So, if you really want to use this class, I would use them. Use them right away. Well, as long as you don't do the optional. But if you do the optional dungeons beforehand, they're probably easy to underutilize. Yeah, it's probably a good class to have once you got very late in the game. But that really doesn't... That's why I'm placing them in the A rank. And I'll probably say the same for the Mages. It's also a good class. Yeah, it's the evolved form of Black Mage. So I would probably go with the... If you really have to use a Black Mage, then go with the Mages. It's a really good class. A better Black Mage. Yeah, it's an evolved form. It also has access to level 8 black magic. Which means you can probably a very good boss slayers if you're exploiting the weakness. And a lot more if you have a character with 4,000 HP like I did. So that you could probably go to the Crystal Tower, no problem. It is over. Now that that is over, we're probably gonna get the hidden classes. Yeah, the only S-rank class that's not the hidden classes is the Black Belt. There are two classes that overshadow the Black Belt a smidge. Namely the Sage. They do have access to the Black Magic, White Magic, and Summon Magic. They are very good. Because if you do the Eureka dungeon beforehand, not only do you get the best weapons in the game, you also get the best magic in the game. Yeah. So if you really want them now, you're probably definitely gonna use them a lot. And as for the best class ever, I'm gonna go with the Ninja. Alright. They can equip every single weapon and every single armor in the entire game. And they have the slow command, which means they can be really essential to face off against other enemies if you have an item. If you have shurikens, you can actually destroy these enemies. Alright. Ooh, I did what I promised. And I did machine gun through those. Yeah, it is so much better than I did with Final Fantasy V. Bonus 3. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna have to finally wrap this up. So I'm probably gonna look for whoever's streaming. Alright, I think... Yeah, every channel is doing a live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Links, and I'm... Alright, so... Yeah, probably at the end of the stream, so... I'm probably just gonna have to see who else is streaming. Alright, so... Okay, the Iron Madden. Oh, God. I'm probably just gonna have to give the Iron Madden a raid. I mean, they're not the person I followed, but I'll just give them a raid. Alright, there we go. Iron Madden. Alright, so until then, this is Plain Chocobo. Thank you guys for watching. And of course, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care.